howdy, Texas, or should I say y'all? I'm from here. Howdy, Texas. I'm Turning Point USA contributor Morgonn McMichael. And Houston, do we have a problem? It's a really big problem. And you know what we're facing in Texas and around the country is schools have become glorified indoctrination camps. The feminist movement, in cooperation with the mainstream hookup culture, has destroyed young adults' view on marriage, young adults' view on the characteristics of what America is, and really, morality. We are witnessing our country losing. We are losing the same values that we once believed and loved as children. We no longer have those same values, and we really aren't even sharing the same languages. And the southern border crisis has only exacerbated this problem. See, we now have an influx of millions of individuals crossing our border illegally and invading our country that we love. Now, they don't care about keeping America free, so why would they care about keeping Texas free? So that's why I'm excited to be here with you guys today, because as a Texas native, I know that our Texas heart and our Texas pride, we're not going to stand for this. And we're going to do something about it every single day that we live to protect our rights and our freedoms across our state. Every day we're fighting for those constitutional rights in America, and we're going to keep Texas free. It's our job to equip ourselves. It's our job to equip ourselves to go out and fight in this not only culture war, but the spiritual battle happening across our country. Because we can't sit idly by anymore. It's our time to actually stand up and do something about it. Texans, we can't just sit down and do nothing anymore. Now, the other day, I was at a school and I was asked, Morgonn, what topic makes your blood boil? What makes you so angry you just want to scream about it? And I'll tell you, the topic that makes my blood boil and gets me more fired up than any other topic is when progressive, Marxist educators are intentionally indoctrinating our next generation. Okay? One day, I hope to be a mom. I see a lot of young girls in here. I assume one day you want to be a mother. And there's a lot of moms in this room and dads or future dads. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to see my kids raised in the generation where they go to school and they're pledging an allegiance to a pride flag. They're told that American values no longer belong and they do not exist to them. And I don't want to see them taught to where they're hating America and its principles. I don't want them to be taught that capitalism is the root of all evil, because that is what's happening right now in our public education systems. History is no longer taught in American public education. Common Core is really just Indoctrination 101. English, science, math, and history, I guarantee it's none of those things. And if you don't believe me, you think Texas, we're a fairly conservative state, I would say. We do a decent job. Think again, because our public education system here in Texas is really what's under attack. Students as young as 5 years old are taught about gender being a social construct. 5 years old, kindergarteners. If I was in kindergarten and being told this, these minds are so impressionable, it blows my mind. Students are taught to identify what level of privilege there is based on other students' skin color. This is absurd. This is actual blasphemy, what's going on. And many Texas schools have adopted principles and policies that allow students to use restrooms and locker rooms based on whatever gender they want to identify as, rather than sexual basic biology. How are we allowing this to happen on Texas soil? Now, in 2017, the Austin Independent School District actually adopted this thing called Welcoming Schools. It's a training for all educators, right? Well, this training taught teachers to introduce topics as homosexuality and transgenderism in the classrooms as young as 5 years old, might I add. And I came across this organization called Concerned Parents of Texas, and I did a little bit of digging. And when I came across this, I also found that Austin ISD administrators, school board members, plan to completely revamp their sex ed in 2017. We're now in 2023, and the only reason it hasn't been instilled to its fullest extent is because of COVID. All this new curriculum is based on a program by Advocates for Youth, which is a radical pro-abortion and pro-LGBT organization that recruits and advocates for sexual rights of young people. Now, this curriculum is also adopted off of the Planned Parenthood curriculum, if you didn't know that as well. It is being implemented as young as kindergarten, and this is happening across almost every single school district in the state of Texas. Children's classrooms, they would be asked to openly discuss their parts down there in detail with their classmates and teachers. I don't know why anyone would need to discuss that with their teachers or classmates. Apparently, they're being taught what good touch and bad touch is. And if that isn't disturbing, I don't know what is. And this is all because it's based on a consent-based program that they have been implementing now over the past couple of years. Gender nonconformity and how to experiment with your gender is also being introduced to these young, impressionable minds. Now, LGBTQ special interest groups, such as the Trevor Project, has also lobbied for public schools to increase their LGBTQ education and counseling, saying that it's expanding pride for these young students, and it is sexual indoctrination is what's going on right now. The school districts, unfortunately, isn't an outlier. Texas has hundreds of schools that are across the country in our state that are subjecting to these radical ideologies. Children are given access to mature books supporting LGBTQ, calling them practices and learning opportunities for children. Children don't need to be learning explicit material. It's honestly just despicable. And I even recently discovered that Walmart is funding DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion education for students and school boards in Arkansas, millions of dollars. Planned Parenthood funds pro-abortion and pro-abortion sex education around the nation. And Planned Parenthood also creates anti-abstinence culture too. And these young women are just vulnerable. They're lost, they're looking for something greater than themselves, and then they get to sex ed class where they're told sex is the answer. Wokeism has been a part of Common Core education in the system, and parents really just don't even know what is being taught to their kids. And I think, it's a pretty good room in here. I bet you guys know what your kids are being taught, but around the state, a lot of parents aren't. There are several college professors even writing pieces, promoting pieces on why elementary school teachers should be teaching critical race theory in their math courses. Now, as an engineer, I'm not really sure where critical race theory and math go together, so that's beyond me. And oftentimes, there's no transparency, and parents are only given 1 to 2 minutes at a school board meeting to where then their mics are just completely shut off to the entire world. There's just no accountability here, and it's time for parents to really do something about it, because if it's not your kids that it's happening to, it's somebody else's kids, and that's our future generation that we depend on for our future, because when you're retired, those are going to be the ones taking care of our country. The indoctrination of trans ideology is seen in sex ed. Students are taught that it's a social construct, which we know it's not true. If you didn't know, I'm a woman, XX chromosomes. Just wanted to make that clear for you all. They can choose their gender identity. Today, I'm going to identify as sparkly and pink. That's okay, right? This goes against the biological reality of our life, of male and female. And if we don't have reality and we don't have truth, then what do we have? Delusion. The attack is directly against the reality of our nuclear families. That is what's really under attack. It's based off of children who have impressionable brains, and it creates confusion and disconnect within their own families, because a parent, we can do as much as we want, but if they're going to school and being taught something completely ideologically different, and they come home, what are you really supposed to do if they're getting indoctrinated 8 to 5 every day? Curriculum in classrooms is actually public information. So you as a parent or a student can ask your teachers, what are we being taught? I want to see the curriculum. But in the state of Texas, many school districts have been hiding this from parents intentionally and not being transparent with what's being taught in school boards, to where now in certain districts, parents can no longer just go online and view the curriculum. Instead, they have to create an appointment with the vice principal or the principal to try and even look at the curriculum, which has been a dumbed-down version of what's actually being taught in the schools. That's what scares me. But on top of that, on top of the indoctrination, Texas schools, only 31% of high school graduates are actually ready for a college education, to where then they're going to college, still with impressionable minds, and they get into the hookup culture, the college culture, the frat parties, and all of that stuff, to where then they just become lost in society. This is not raising a future generation that loves America and stands for the things that we want. It's really just unacceptable. And now, I'll be the first to say, I don't think every student should go to college. Charlie says it all the time. College is a scam. I myself did not finish my degree. But hey, we're here. And get this, 88% of college professors in the United States are left-leaning or identify as liberal, where only 12% are conservative or right-leaning. So why aren't they actually embodying what their student body actually represents? They're not representing the students at all. The university systems are clearly just as bad as the public education system, whether it's here in Texas or around the country. And what they're doing is they're pumping out worker bees, just going out into the world to be corporate consumers. Now, personally, I went to Texas Tech University, so wreck them if there's any Red Raiders out there. And here's the thing. You don't think Lubbock's super liberal, right? It's actually one of the most red districts in the state of Texas when it comes to the elections maps. And the student body is about 70% conservative. But guess what? 70% of those professors at Texas Tech University are liberal or left-leaning. And I myself experienced that. I went there from 2017 until 2021. I should have graduated. Now, I'm not really sure what an engineering major needs to take a women and gender studies class for. But I took one. I tried it out. And at this point, I wasn't as good with my conservative voice, yet I wasn't as standing firm in what I believe. So I took this course, and I had a group project, and I was told to do this project on why Planned Parenthood is good and how it benefits women. What? And you know, if I have one regret in life, it's not sticking up for my fellow classmates because, let's see, the TA was a trans man, and the professor was a master's student, she just graduated with her master's, PhD candidate for gender studies. So clearly the only thing you can do with a gender studies degree other than take biology classes is become a indoctrination teacher, right? So anyways, it was ridiculous, and I guess probably this only had to do with something about racist roads that Pete Buttigieg is always crying about. But in that class, with this Planned Parenthood ideological class, we know it's all not true. We know that abortion is what Planned Parenthood is focused on, and we know that they're out to get all women, and it's eugenics and all of that. And we know the lies that they're claiming that to providing life-saving care to these women. Fun fact, I actually found out this week. I was watching TikTok, which I hate TikTok just as much as everybody else, but I was watching TikTok, and I came across this video where somebody called Planned Parenthood asking for gender-affirming care and hormones as a minor, posing as a minor, with parental consent, but without a note from a therapist. And Planned Parenthood was willing to give a minor hormones with a simple parental consent form. Nothing to do with therapists, nothing to do with doctors. You can just go in and pick up your bag of pills. That's terrifying. Planned Parenthood is truly evil. And if you think you can get around these woke, obscene classes of college professors, well, hate to break it to you, but English and history are now just a pipeline for these woke ideologies. Now, my sister, she goes to Texas A&M University, so we're half Aggie family. So gig 'em, howdy, I don't know, I didn't go there. But anyways, every week she'll send me the craziness that's going on, literally College Station, just an hour and a half away. Get this, her advisor in the agriculture department is displaying BLM flags, pride flags, pro-abortion rhetoric under the guise of being pro-woman at Texas A&M University. Oh, and let us not forget, they have an LGBTQ pride center at Texas A&M along with every other huge college university here. If you think Tech has it, DEI, A&M, UT for sure has it, and I'll talk about UT in a little bit. Every single Texas university is under attack just as much as our public education system. Now, my sister was also in a general studies class, basic freshman, sophomore general studies. You go and you learn how to write essays. Oh, no. You learn how to write essays and have arguments without offending people. Because we need to be told how to not be offensive, because they don't want us to hurt your feelings. Because these are now the informed debate strategies. Right. English classes have writing prompts that have to do with only leftist and woke ideologies. And in history, there's just a hyperfixation on diversity, equity, and inclusion training. The list goes on, and honestly, if you looked at any college classroom, you could probably find indoctrination or woke ideologies in every single one of them. Universities no longer care about teaching students what actually matter in life. When you're paying for your own indoctrination for 2 years, before you even get to major specific classes, they could be teaching you whatever they want you to. There's clearly evil present no matter what the university is ranked. I mean, look at Harvard, Vanderbilt, Princeton, all the Ivies. They're the ones funneling the most money into this gender ideology. But I know I said we were going to talk about UT, so this is where it gets really crazy. So a lot of what I do at Turning Point is I do man-on-the-street interviews. I travel to college campuses. I speak. I talk to the protesters. And we just see what happens. So recently, I went to UT Austin, and I had 2 questions for them, just basic questions. What is the biggest issue facing Gen Z? As a Gen Zer, I really want to know, what do Gen Zers think is the problem? And what is the Gen Z perspective on permitless carry here in Texas? I'm a fan of it. So, let's take a look. Let's see what UT had to say. All right, so we talked about education. Came across 3 education majors. And these education majors were really excited about this interview. And I was like, all right, what's the issue with our next generation? Climate change. Climate change is the biggest issue facing our generation, and there's something we got to do about it. All right, what do we have to do about it? We need to eat plant-based. We need to be vegan. We need to walk, bike, and turn off our lights when we're not using them. And I can almost guarantee every single one of those students aren't actually doing those things. So then I asked, okay, these people are the future teachers of America. They have our students' best interest at heart. All right. What are your thoughts on permitless carry? This is what got me. Oh, it's so dangerous. All firearms have to be banned. Like, they're really the problem. And then they claimed that as the future teachers of America, that they're now being asked to protect students in their classrooms because of school shootings. So I said, okay, and I've asked this to a couple of people, it's like, okay, would you be willing to carry a firearm then in your classroom, just have it in a safe, or if you were trained, or have guards on school? Like, yes, I agree, we need to protect our future generation and our kids in America. Nope, ban all assault weapons. What's an assault weapon? They couldn't tell me, which, by the way, AR is an assault weapon. It's not actually automatic rifle, or AR actually is Armalite rifle. It's the manufacturer. So not many Gen Zers actually know that. Now, more and more, when I ask these basic questions, I get answers of just regurgitated rhetoric from the left. And it's all about how capitalism sucks and how socialism is the answer. Yet they don't realize that they could never even live in a capitalist society or even talk about capitalism when living under socialism or communism. I'm not kidding. You think it's crazy. It's crazy out there. And kids actually read the Communist Manifesto and like it. So it's time for Gen Z to wake up, because it really is just blowing my mind about what is genuinely going on. And they think that working, or not working, and just getting everything handed to them is the answer. All 67 million members of Gen Z are raised in a social environment that encourages narcissism, self-obsession of our own thought. Materialism is all to blame right now as well. And really, a lot of Gen Z lacks a greater purpose than pleasing themselves. And I promise, Gen Z, you're not going to find purpose by scrolling on Instagram 24/7 or TikTok, or going to pride parades, or identifying with whatever you want, because it's actually factually a false identity. But this is what scared me when I was doing some research. Over 20% of Gen Z adults believe that they are LGBTQ something. And this is compared to a 10% of millennials who also believe that they are LGBTQ something. And this is from 2021, so now 2 years later, it's probably gotten worse. And what's astonishing is 1 in 5 Gen Zers identify themselves as LGBTQ something. Now I call this is the largest social contagion that has ever happened. This is bigger than COVID. This is a social contagion that is plaguing our future generation. Now our schools should be providing a factual-based and balanced factual education, not just politically correct version of history. In 2020, 62% of Americans actually feared speaking out about their political beliefs, or even just beliefs in general, because of the political correctness and the climate going on. And they were afraid of us sharing our views, really, which I can attest to, because in 2016 and 2020, I also feared speaking out, and when I did, I was slandered by my classmates. Here's the thing. In 2016, I was 16 years old. I was taking a government class, and I would continuously be graded down in my history and government papers because I was using Fox News, which wasn't an approved source, but CNN and MSNBC were approved sources. Craziness, right? She would also promote abortions in the classroom. This is a high school classroom under the guise of being women's rights, encourage you to go to women's marches, continuously encourage students to be politically active, but only if it was for the left. Or she would also promote gun control, which at this time I actually stood up for gun control and abortion, where me, one girl, 16 years old, was pinned against 20 other students to debate my side in front of the entire classroom. Not really sure how that's fair. We're seeing an increasing number of schools adopt these far-left ideologies that teaches kids to hate America and our founding principles. It's oppressive, critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion, and really this propaganda. Siri, goodbye. Anyways, this type of propaganda is really just brainwashing our next generation, and we've got to put a stop to it. In Texas, school choice is actually legal. So parents, you can send your kid to whatever school you want, homeschool it. I know there's a big group of Christian school, and I think it's really awesome. Because there is actually no constitutional barrier in Texas when it comes to school choice. 53% of parents believe that the public schools are actually more interested in promoting leftist woke ideologies than actually teaching traditional academic subjects, which I can tell you is very true. Public schools are more incentivized by public funding, which is why they don't actually promote school choice in Texas, and instead, they're more worried about how many students they can actually get to their schools, which, side note, property taxes in Texas are the 5th highest property taxes in the entire United States. That property tax money is going directly to the public education system, whether your kids go there or not, and so you're paying simply for the indoctrination of the next generation, whether you see it or not. So that's another staggering, scary thing. So they're incentivized by this, but also under school choice in the state of Texas, there is something called an opt-out. Parents, if you don't know about this is a great opportunity, where with a simple handwritten note with the student given to the teacher, you can opt out of any class that doesn't morally or religiously align with you and your family's beliefs. So get your kids out of those classes, I'm telling you. Because really, the LGBTQIA alphabet soup contagion is on its way. These schools are creating an army of self-proclaimed social justice warriors where 15-year-olds are fighting for women's rights. Last I checked, women have the same rights as anybody else do. And I will say this fourth wave feminism is not the feminism that we got the right to vote for. It's not the same feminism that enabled us to drive cars, that enabled us to pick our jobs and do what we wanted in our society. Instead, this feminism is toxic. Feminism, as it was originally conceived, was about the empowerment of women. It was about giving women the tools and the opportunities needed to succeed in society. It was about the embracing and power of femininity, which I'm all for a little girl power, okay? But here's the thing is I'm not going to be told that the only way I'm going to be successful is to climb a corporate ladder and told that that's more fulfilling than raising a family and getting married. Now more than ever, members of our society are willing to forego learning and embracing their own traditional values in order to climb the societal ladder that really is non-existent. At the top, they hope to be praised for something that they believe is so great, and they just come tumbling down. And it's really sad that we've lost sight of these core principles that America was founded on, of life and liberty. Here's the one thing, though, I will say, is Gen Z isn't totally lost, but I wanted to give you a perspective of what's actually going on in the state of Texas, because I think Texans, we have a really big problem of sitting idly by, not doing something about it, and thinking our state is conservative enough. But I'm saying that enough isn't enough. So Gen Z isn't totally lost, okay? We've got a lot of great conservative students I come across on campuses, so I'll give you a little bit of hope. A lot of students are for God, country, and freedom. A lot of kids love this country, and they're going to be willing to do anything to fight. But the reality is a lot of these students are the minorities on their campus, and they're going to need as much support as possible. Gen Z is really just obsessed with being unique and different, too, and so I think a lot of this stuff is really just a trend, and it will go away pretty soon, hopefully. But that's why we have to do something about it and keep the pressure on them. Now, Texas has come under a lot of fire when it comes to women's rights. You know, we've seen feminism is not about empowering women, it's about tearing men down. We're seeing a feminism that really isn't celebrating the unique qualities of women and instead denying them. It is a feminism whose goal is to erase what a woman is and encourage biological men to somehow be involved in the women's movement. I'm not really sure where biological men and so-called trans people fit into the women's movement. We believe in that original version of feminism, at least I do, first and second wave. We believe in traditional values and the importance of family roles that men and women have, because men and women are different, and this version is just toxic. And I will say, women are very powerful. They're even more powerful when they're brought together with a moral man of good character. So when you have a moral woman and a moral man brought together on that firm foundation, you want to know what you create? A strong nuclear family unit. And I believe that that's one of the biggest threats. That is the biggest threat. That's the biggest threat to the left, is because without the nuclear family that are designed to raise future generations, for their kids to ask not what their country can do for them, but what they can do for their country and do something better about it. And this is a fundamental to American society. It's a fundamental to any functioning society. But that's what they're trying to erase. That's what they're trying to get rid of. And guess what? Abortion plays a role in this too. I know we've talked a little bit about this puzzle piece, but somehow the abortion industry has also attached itself to the women's movement for somehow being pro-women. How is ending the life of a precious child actually woman? It's not pro-woman. It's actually the most anti-woman thing a woman could do, yet we're continuously sold this lie that it's better to end the life of your child than to continue through with the pregnancy. Now, the statistics on abortion in Texas are actually what's really staggering, because in 2019, there were over 56,000 abortions performed in the state of Texas, which on average is about 155 unborn lives killed every single day in 2019. This is modern-day genocide that we are seeing. Luckily in Texas, we have the heartbeat bill, which was passed on September 1st of 2021, Senate Bill 8 signed into law, which bans abortions up to 6 weeks early. But then you'll see, yeah, that's something to cheer about. We love that. You know, we're protecting the babies. But the left is still trying to attack that bill because of ectopic pregnancies, which I'll be the one to burst your bubble if you think ectopic pregnancies are abortions. They're not. They're actually not even viable pregnancies because they're in the fallopian tubes. I'm sure you all took sex ed. I just hope it was more biblical sex ed than this modern woke stuff. I won't be here to be your biology teacher. But here's the thing, is we need to support legislation that is going to uplift life, and that means supporting organizations like Turning Point. It means supporting other organizations that provide alternatives, pregnancy resource centers in Texas, and it means speaking out against the culture of death, and that has taken a hold of our society, and instead talk about the culture of life. Across the United States, there are 2,500 pregnancy resource centers, and in the state of Texas, that has the most pregnancy resource centers at 200. 200 pregnancy resource centers over the entire state of Texas, yet abortion is what they focus on. Mind you, you can go to these resource centers and get pretty much anything you would need as a new mother to support the life that you are carrying. We need to remember the importance of traditional feminism and remember that women aren't defined by their ability to act like men. Because we're not, we're women. We have unique gifts and talents, we're pretty awesome, and we should be celebrating that and not denying that. We need to remember that true empowerment comes from embracing our femininity and not rejecting our basic femininities. Just like creating strong bonds among individuals in the nuclear family units, it allows us to form powerful grassroots communities. So that's why I think that community is another thing that we can attack the left with. Members of these communities, when we join together with those with like-minded ideologies, have the incredible ability to support one another, support one another's beliefs. We can bring back that traditionalism, faith-based knowledge, and help one another grow throughout society. And this is the biggest threat to the modern feminist agenda, the abortion agenda, the indoctrination in our schools, in every single industry that is against us. Forming these communities is going to enable individuals to surround themselves with like-mindedness, lead to the realization that many who feel alone aren't actually alone, because Gen Z tends to see these morals as relative, and they're growing up in a far more diverse America than we once did. So how do we bring this entire generation to realize that morals and values are the core foundation of what America is like today? Well, all of us. We are that answer, because without us, no one's going to do it for us. And if you think they are, check the school systems again. Because if we lose sight of this, then we lose the sight on culture and reality in our country. Society now more than ever has lacked this moral backing. And I've asked college students on the street, where they get their morals from. And a lot say God, but a lot of them think society or crystals. So what do? Well, for starters, stay informed and involved. Get involved, stay involved. There's a sacrifice that we're all going to have to make, and it may include a micro-sacrifice, getting canceled. But the thing is we're doing it for the greater good, for God upstairs, because we've got to continue fighting to keep this America free. Most importantly, we need to stand together. We need to get the word out in Texas, because we can't sit down and not do anything anymore. Because you never know who in your life and who you surround yourself with actually values what you value. So you have those conversations, talk to one another, create communities, homeschool your kids. And if you're not homeschooling your kids, get in those school board meetings. My parents have been kicked out multiple times. It's pretty funny. My dad would actually hold up pictures of the graphic books in front of the school board. So pretty intense stuff. And then my mom's friend was arrested in Eanes ISD in Austin. So yeah, they're fighting. So if you're not fighting, get fighting, because they're coming after your kids. And here's the thing is, take a stand and don't back down, because fighting this culture war for our future generation isn't just going to be a Gen Z fight, it's an everyone fight. And Gen Z, you guys are the generation with a voice, as they like to say online. So use your voice, do something, stand up, and God bless Texas. Thank you.